Good morning students, I welcome you to my class and we are going to continue with the chapter 1, the best Christmas present in the world. Okay, this chapter 1 is taken from your book Honeydew, and children, I've already started the chapter in my previous video, but once again I would like to revise the important point that whatever I have done yesterday. Okay, so here the narrator, he has noticed that he is interested in buying roll top decks, but since roll top decks are very expensive in the market, so he is not able to buy a brand new decks. Now on one day he went to a junk shop and he found a old roll top decks. The shopkeeper said that it was a decks which was made in 19th century, and the wood is of oak, is from oak tree. One of the best wood it is considered from oak tree. Now he had always wanted to have one roll top decks. Okay, but since they were too expensive, so he was not able to buy. So this decks, though it was in a very bad condition, all scorch mark. What is a scorch mark? All the at one side of the decks, all the burn marks were there. Okay, but it was then also he could afford that decks, roll top decks, because it was not very expensive. Only a very little amount of money he has to spend. And the best thing is that children, the part which was damaged, the man thought he could restore that. He can restore that thing. Restore means he can repair the upper portion. It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. Now he is thinking that though it is a risk, it was not easy to repair like a skilled carpenter, but then he thought he can do it. Well, he paid the man whatever the small amount he had asked, and finally he brought that decks into his house. Children, it was one day prior to Christmas. It was a Christmas Eve and he started working. He had put that decks in the workroom at the back side of his garage. Well, I removed the roll top completely and pulled out the drawer. Now children, he removed all the ply and everything which was there in the first layer of the decks, roll top decks. And he was beginning to pull out the drawer. You know that drawers are there in a roll top decks. So, okay, and in the upper portion of the decks, it was a damage from hot water also. Both fire and water has clearly taken their toll on this deck. That means just because of fire and water, they have completely damaged the decks. The last drawer was stuck fast. Now, stuck fast means shut tightly. The last drawer he was not able to open. It was stuck fast. He tried to pull with ease, but he could not use. So, he pulled out with brutal force and beat the drawer with the fist, and finally, children, the drawer was opened. There was something there, and when he saw that something, it was a small black sellotaped box. Okay, and a note was there which was written in a very shaky handwriting. And what was there? Jim's last letter received January 25, 1915. Now children, this date is very important. What is the date written here? January 25, 1915, and it was Jim's last letters. Okay, so when he opened, a small black tin box was there. Then he saw that somebody has written with a shaky handwriting, and what was written there? Jim's last letter, and which was received on January 25, 1915. And this year is very important because this year is showing that at that time World War I had taken place. So this date is very important. This is the date, and children, since Jim is the person who was in an army, and he was involved in a war. He was from England side, and he went there to fight with German soldiers. Okay, so when he was fighting, he went for a war, and he had wrote this letter to the person whose roll top desk was there, to be buried with me when the time comes. Now the person, he or she written this wordings also, to be buried with this letter should be buried with me when the time come, when my time come, when I will die, then this letter should be buried with me. I knew as I did it that it was wrong of me to open the box. Now children, you can see in the picture, you can see in the picture, the Jim is opening and here is the black box. Here you can see this the black box. Okay, and now children, inside the box, well, it was not good to open the box, but then children, he knew that if he will read that thing, it would be wrong. But then also children, he could not suppress his desire. He read those, he took out the letter, unfolded it, and children, it was written in pencil and dated at the top December 26, 1914. So what was the date written on the letter? December 26, 1914. So this was the First World War. This was the date when First World War had begun, and it was there. The whole world was involved in World War I. So now, though he knew it is a bad habit to read somebody's letter, but he wrote, he had seen that letter, it was mentioned, dearest Connie. So it means that the husband or the person who is writing this letter to Connie, and he is written that I am writing in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful had just happened. Now children, he had shared this part of the letter that he is involved in a war. The place where they were, it was a trenches. Children, he was an English man. He had to fight with German. In this chapter, English men were known as Tommy, and the German soldiers were given the name Fritz. So all of a sudden, in the trenches which was there in front of him, he saw that many soldiers were there, and one of them came with a white flag. Now at first he saw a trick, it must be a trick. Now children, white flag means that he wanted to compromise, he wanted to have a peaceful talk, peaceful solution of something. So he came there with the, he showed those Fritz soldiers, that is those German soldiers, they were showing white flag to the English soldiers. So at first he thought this is not fair, it must be some trick, but later on again few other soldiers came with the flag, and they also thought that they should be response them in a very nice manner. At first they thought that it is a trick, maybe they would attack them, it is a trick of some time. But later on he came to know it was not a trick. They really wanted to talk something. So I am in page number 11, paragraph 2. One of the German was waving a bottle above his head. It's a Christmas day, Tommy. Now children, not only the flag, one of the German soldier, he was waving a bottle of wine, okay, and above his head. And what he told it's a Christmas day. Children, he told that today is Christmas. Tommy are the English soldiers, British soldiers. We have snaps, we have sauces, we meet you. Yes, by this time there were dozens of them walking toward us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. Now children, the most surprising thing was that these soldiers without a gun, they started moving towards the trenches of the English soldier. They were having something in their hand, like wine were there, okay, and sauces were there, and they told that we are going to meet you as we will celebrate Christmas together. We will come and celebrate Christmas together, okay, and we are coming to meet you. There was not a rifle, they were not carrying any rifle between them. Little Private Morris was the first up. Come on, boys, what are we waiting for? Now, children, um, Morris was there. He was the first one. He told all the English soldiers, come on, boys, what are we waiting for? And then there was no stopping. As soon as the English soldier, they have heard his wordings, they could not resist themselves. Even they went there. But the truth is that it never occurred to me I should. Now, children, the person, Coney, it is Coney husband, and he was a commanding officer there. He was a person who has written a letter to his wife, and he is sharing what I am teaching you just right now. So what he told, all along their line and hours, I could see man walking slowly towards one another, grey coats, khaki coats, meeting in the middle. Now, children, this was the uniform of German soldiers. They used to put grey coats, no, khaki coats. The English soldiers, they used to put grey color coats. So now he can see the German soldiers with the grey coats, and the khaki coats, and English soldiers with the grey coat. They are meeting with each other, and I was one of them. I was part of this, and he also automatically he started meeting with them. In the middle of the war, we were making peace, though the whole world was involved in the war. But according to the narrator, the commanding officer, he want to have a peace. So how? Because they were the one who they wanted to celebrate Christmas together. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feeling as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer. And suddenly, children, he was his husband, Connie's husband. He was the commanding officer of English soldier, and now he had seen Connie. He is sharing his feeling with Connie. That suddenly, children, his eyes met with the Fritz officer, Fritz commanding officer, German commanding officer, who was standing, who approached me hand outstretched. And what did he saw next moment? He saw that the commanding officer of German side, he was standing in front of him, and he stretched his hand to shake. He wanted to have friendship with the British commanding officer. And he introduced himself, Hans Wolf. So what was the name of that German commanding officer? It was Hans Wolf. He was Fritz commanding officer. Okay. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feeling as I looked into the eyes of Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched, Hans Wolf. So he introduced himself that he is Hans Wolf. He said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it with a very warmly. Okay, he gripped, okay, the hands of this British commanding officer, and he gave a nice smiling, and he told that I'm Hans Wolf, I'm from Dusseldorf. He told the place also, that he is from which place in Germany. So he told that he is from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Cello is a musical instrument. He is telling I'm a soldier, as well as I used to play cello in the orchestra. And then finally he told Happy Christmas. He told Merry Christmas to him. But he was so friendly that Coney's husband, Jim Macpherson. So he was the commanding officer of British Army, Coney's husband, and his name was Jim Macpherson. So he also introduced himself. He told that I am Captain Jim McPherson. I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. Now he told, a very happy Christmas to you. I am a school teacher from Dorsal in the west of England. So he told, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. Now he told ki, of course I am working in an army, but actually I am a teacher. And from which place? From Dorset in the west, which is situated, which is there in the west of England. Dorset, he smiled. Now children, see how nicely Wolf is continuing, not realizing that he is from enemy side. So he is telling, Dorset, I know this place, I know it very well. Now he told that this place I know very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sauces. And we talked. Now children, they shared their rum ration and the excellent sauces which was prepared by German soldiers, and we talked. Now they started talking also. He told Connie how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English. Now children, he is telling Jim McPherson, he is sharing all the talks which was done by Hans Wolf to his wife. He is telling that he spoke very perfect English. He spoke a nice English, though he was a German. But it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, ever been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from his school and from reading books in English. Now children, though he told that he knew Dorset very much, but Jim McPherson realized that all this thing he came to know by reading the book, okay, by reading English book. His favorites was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book from the Madding Crowd. Now children, though he was a German soldier, he used to love to read English writers' books. So his famous book was Far from the Madding Crowd. It's a very nice book, children. Sometime whenever you get time, you also read. And the writer was a German writer, an English writer, Thomas Hardy. So out there is no man's land, we talk in Beersheba. Now children, the place where they were standing, it was neither the land of German nor the land of British people. Okay, it was Beersheba. We talked of Beersheba and Gabriel Oak and Sargent, so Troy and Dorset. So many things they have shared about Beersheba, Gabriel Oak, Sargent, Troy and Dorset. Now he shared some of his personal thing also, that he had a wife and one son born just 6 months ago. So he is telling that he had a wife and he had a son who was born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere. And suddenly, Jim McPherson, he looked everywhere, and what he found, that everywhere there were grey and khaki. That means English and German soldiers. They were talking, drinking, laughing, eating. That means they were enjoying their Christmas festival. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. Now children, Connie, his wife, had sent a nice cake to her husband Jim McPherson, and he's telling that I shared that cake with Hans Wolf. Okay, and it was a nice cake, nicely prepared cake for Christmas, wonderful Christmas cake. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. Marzipan is a type of sweet covering on a cake made from sugar, eggs and almonds. That is a type of icing on the cake. So when he tasted that, he thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. Even Jim McPherson agreed We agreed about everything and he was my enemy. Children, though they have agreed with each other, knowing that he was his enemy, there never was a Christmas party like Kit Coney. But then he also told that there was never a Christmas party like this which he had celebrated earlier. Okay. So then someone, I don't know who, brought out football. Now children, the best part is that somebody bought a football, okay, when they were doing all this thing. Great coat were dumped in piles to make goalposts. Now children, since they were standing in a plain ground, so they have taken out their coat. German, so they have taken out their khaki coats, they have put at one side to make it at a goalpost. Tommy, they have taken out their grey coat so that it could be changed into a what type of post, children? Goal post. Okay. So great coats were dumped in piles to make goal posts, and the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Frisch out in the middle of no man's land. And the best thing took place now. The most wonderful thing was that a match of football had started between German soldiers and French soldiers, and it was played in a no man's land. Okay. Okay. Handwolf and I looked on and cheered. Now these two gentlemen, the officers, they started cheering. Clapping our hands, stamping our feet. So they enjoyed the match, sometimes by clapping their hands, sometimes by cheering, sometimes by stamping their feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. There was a moment when I noticed our breath mingling in the air between us. Now children, these two persons came so close with each other while watching the match that he could feel his breath. He was so close to him that Jim McPherson, he could feel the breath which he was breathing. Okay, the hot breath. And there was a moment when I noticed our breath mingling in the air. So his breath and children, his breath, that means Hans Wolf breath and Jim McPherson breath, it mingled in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. Now, children, this is a very important night. So he is telling, though he was from the enemy side, but children, a very nice idea he is given. He told that this is the way we should resolve the war. A football match. A football match is the best way to resolve a war. Okay. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widow. So it's telling nobody become widow, no children become orphaned here. Okay, so this is the best way to resolve war. I would prefer cricket. Now children, since he was an Englishman, so he's telling I will not prefer football. Which game I would prefer? Englishman loves to play cricket, I told him. Then we Thomas could be sure of winning probably, and he's so much confidence he's having in cricket. Children, we always know that English person, they are one of the strongest team of the world and they love to play cricket. Okay, so he's telling why I'm preferring, because we are sure of winning with this cricket match. We laughed at that. Now when he heard this, he started laughing, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Coney Fritz won. Now it is very sad to share this thing that it was Fritz who won 2-1. What was the point? They scored 2-1. But as Hans Bull generously said, our goal was wider than their, so it was not quite fair. Okay. Now children, how nicely, what a nice idea Hans Wolf has given to Tommy, to Jim McPherson. Okay. So now children, we are in the second paragraph of page number 13. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the snack naps and the rum and the sauces had long since run out. and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. So finally, children, everything which is start, it comes to an end. Finally, the game was over, and with that round sauces, everything was over now. And I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. So finally, both wished each other that the war will be over, you can go home. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides. Now Hans Wolf also supported him. He told that both the soldiers want the same thing. They don't want anybody to die. They wanted to be with their family. Hans Wolf said, "Take care, Jim Macpherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you." He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly. I felt he turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. So he turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was Stillinash, silent night. Children, so they started in the night, they started singing Christmas carol. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of while shepherds watched. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had had our time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. So children, he is sharing everything. Jim Macpherson is sharing with his wife. He is hoping that by next year, the war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know, children, this is having a dual meaning. This war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all what happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, I'm sure of it. Your loving Jim. So finally the letter was over and he is looking forward to be with his wife. He told very soon I will come and we will live together. So he started dreaming to live with his wife. Now, third part of this chapter. I folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. So he folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. I kept awake all night. By morning, I knew what I had to do. So he kept awake all night. By morning, he knew what I had to do. I drove into Bridport, just a few miles away. I asked a boy walking his dog where Copper Beaches was. Now children, he started feeling that it is his duty to go to Bridport and give a letter to that lady. While he went to Bridport, he was not knowing the place. He saw a boy walking and he asked, where is Copper Beaches, house number 12. Turned out to be nothing but a burned out shell. But when he reached the house, he saw that it was only burned. The roof gaping, the window boarded up. The house was badly burned, nobody was inside the house. I knocked at the house next door and asked if anybody knew the whereabouts of Mrs. Macpherson. Now children, he went to the neighboring house, and he asked about the whereabouts of a Mrs. Macpherson. Oh yes, said the old man in his slipper. You knew her well. A lovely old lady, he told me, a bit muddle-headed, but at her age she was entitled to be, wasn't she? Now he told that I very much know that lady. She is a bit muddle-headed because of her age, but she was a good, lovely old lady. She is 101 years old. Now children, she is 101 years old. She had been in the house when it caught fire. No one really know how the fire had started, but it could well have been candles. Now he told कि once this house caught a fire, nobody knew how this house was born. Everybody was predicting that it might be a candle. She used candles rather than electricity because she always thought electricity was too expensive. So the firemen had got her out just in time. She was in a nursing home now, he told me, Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of town. Now this man told about that lady, that Mrs. Macpherson. She is in Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of the town. So this man, she got the address of that lady. Now let's see in part from the other part of part 3 that what the narrator had done, what he did. Okay, so with this I end my video here. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.